Haha, that looks really cute.
Oh, I love it!
Welcome to the Mike Cassidy Photography Podcast.
Thank you, big voice in the sky. My name is Mike Cassidy, and I'm a boudoir photographer from New Jersey, and this is my show. I get to talk to some of the best photographers in the world to find out how they got started, what sparks their creativity, and what hurdles they've had to overcome to get their businesses going. Along the way, we'll probably have a few laughs, but I'm here to have in-depth conversations about all kinds of things you've always wanted to know from the best out there. So stay tuned. You never know what you may learn. Why does a photography podcast have to be boring? Boring podcasts are for boring people. Greetings. My name is Michael, and I'm your neighbor. I tend to have long conversations with my guests on this show, and the interesting part that's fascinating to me is that I can have a conversation with somebody for an hour or an hour and a half on some topics and really just cover a small part of what there is to know about that particular subject. And when it comes to marketing, this statement is super true. Marketing is a vast subject, not to mention a super interesting one and one that is important to all photographers. My guest on the show today is Ariel Dilworth. Ariel is a photographer, and she also teaches marketing to photographers to help them run their businesses in a way that is effective, but is still true and unique to them. Marketing is a recurring topic on this show, and for good reason. There's always something new to learn and apply to your business. Ariel has been successful in her marketing, and her approach is the right approach. So break out your earbuds, find a cup of coffee, and give this episode a hearty listen. Do you do mini sessions as part of your business? Have you been thinking about it? Want to do a mini session? Well, a big part of today's episode with Ariel is a discussion on a simple, no-nonsense approach to the mini session, and a lot of it is what photographers are doing wrong, and more importantly, how you need to approach these mini sessions to do them correctly and make money. We talk everything from organizing them to marketing them. We talk about all that. So it's a really bit of an eye-opener when it comes to doing mini sessions. Then we get into some bonus marketing coverage about using social media and the always popular why you should not be copying your competitors, which is like a big flaw of so many photographers, and particularly endemic like in the boudoir industry where people just copy everybody. This is something that can really severely limit your growth as a retail photographer. So we get into a lot of good information here in this episode. So that's what's going on for this show. So why don't you give yourself some me time, in air quotes, me time. Crack open that mocha frappuccino you got sitting there and enjoy this show with Ariel. And I'll see you next time. This podcast and my website both focus on the goal of translating the art and business of photography and making it accessible and understandable to everyone. My goal is to provide the best content in photography for you, the listener. I've assembled a great team of photography guests and experts to make this happen. What I've chosen to do is create a subscriber model for my audience. If you value what I'm doing, you can become a member and support this podcast. In exchange, you'll get benefits over and above what's available for free. It's my goal to ensure that subscribers will definitely get back more than they give. I've created a membership program that brings you far more in-depth content if you want to take your knowledge of photography to the next level. members will receive episodes with complete, unabridged interviews with our guests. Members will also get exclusive access to listen to and participate in AMA episodes. And there's more. If you would like to learn more now, head over to thephotographypodcast.show/subscribe. Now, without further delay, here's today's episode. Okay, so now we're recording. We're on. You made it. We had a little problem, but now we're okay. Could be virus related, but we're not sure. Now it's affecting our infrastructure here. We're on. My guest today is Ariel Dilworth, and talking to her today, we're going to be talking a little bit about marketing, a little bit about photography, a little bit about whatever pops up that we are going to be going over in the next hour or so. And Ariel, just take a moment, introduce yourself to everybody.
Hi guys, I'm Ariel. I live in Illinois, not in Chicago. That seems to be what everyone thinks. I live in the middle of Illinois, about 2 hours south of Chicago. Small town, only 13,000 people. But I managed to grow just a 6-figure business after we had moved here, and I didn't know anybody. Now I've started doing just a lot of that type of education with photographers, in addition to still running my photography business full time. So
you're very busy.
Yes.
You must have a very sore index finger, because I was reading you've done about 1,500 people in photography.
Yes.
Like half the state of Illinois out there.
Yeah, right? Like yeah, it's pretty crazy. But I bought my camera after having my first child. I was that mom with a camera that everyone hates. And so that's kind of how I started. And I was just like, oh, I'm going to just do this. I'm going to start a business, and then quickly learned it wasn't that easy, and had to really hone in on the business and marketing aspect of it, so that I could continue to grow that business and everything like that. But that is originally how I started, was just mom with a camera.
And everyone starts somewhere. But now, looking at, I'm a little bit of a creeper, so I was looking at your websites and looking at your marketing website, and it's all very good. It's all great information that's on there. So the point of this show, like I said, is really everybody has to start somewhere, and it's not perfect when people are starting. Everybody has to go through that same learning curve, and it takes a long time, and some people get there, quicker than others. Mm-hmm. But this show is just about helping people how to connect those dots a little bit. And even if you could take one thing away from listening, and take one step, that's really what it's all about, taking one little step at a time to ultimately get where you want to, what you want to be. And it's a little sidetrack here, but it's hard not to discuss this because of what's going on in the country now. But what is this current situation? How is it affecting where you are and your work and so forth lately?
So because I am in Illinois, it's bad up in Chicago. We do have it in the rest of the state as well, including where I live. But it's definitely the worst up there. It's not like New York, but I think there's 30,000 or so that have it in Chicago. But because I'm still in the same state, they just kind of shut all of us down when Chicago started getting bad. So we have officially been in isolation for over a month now.
Going crazy?
Yeah. And, the main effect it's had on my business has been, I'm a fully booked photographer about 18 months in advance. So a lot of these brides who are having to reschedule their weddings, or people wanting to reschedule their sessions, I don't have very much availability. And so they're having to either decide to not book or to book with a, or to book a Saturday or a weekday or something like that, or even in 2021. But so that's been kind of hard. Yeah. Just having to try to do all of that. And, obviously I'm a huge fan of the whole reschedule, don't cancel movement, but, it's been interesting because I've never viewed like being a fully booked photographer as a bad thing until this moment. So that's been an interesting thing to try and navigate.
It's happening nationally, though, because a lot of my brides, everything in the spring, all these weddings got like pushed back till after summer. So it's just going to be, hopefully we won't lose a lot of stuff. It's just going to be moving the business from now till later in the year. But it's the first time for everybody to go through this, and I don't want to go through this again, but it's people are to make some last minute decisions here on fixing up their businesses.
$1,000 of income that's just been affected by this just in the 1 month that this has been happening. And I'm the main income provider for my family of 5. I have 3 children. So I am just like, that has been a huge part of that also for me, the stress of it all for me. And so I kind of like, and I think I included this in the show notes, or I gave it to you to put there with the coronavirus toolkit for photographers. Yeah. And honestly, it's like, I'm giving you everything that I have been using myself to get through this time, whether that's like financial resources or my responses to clients who want to cancel or reschedule, or if I want to reschedule and they don't want to, and you have that awkward conversation.
Navigating that.
Yeah. And so I'm just trying to really, just navigate that myself and just kind of make that stuff available to you guys for free, just because this is such a crazy unknown time for all of us.
Yeah, and I'm going to put all those links into the bottom of the episode in the notes there, so everyone will be able to access those and take a peek at that document, because you have a lot of good information. So that's what we're here to talk about today is good information for people. This is a great time if you're not going out and doing a lot of photos, that you can sit home and refocus on your website, refocus on your marketing, and maybe pick up a thing or two, and in the end of it come out a little bit stronger. So really what I came across, I think I was just browsing online. I forget where I saw that, and I came across your article on mini sessions, and it was really well written. And I said, wow, this is good information. This is something that can be helpful for people to navigate that, and you have a little bit of a different point of view on these minis. And so I wanted to talk about that a little bit first. We're going to talk about some marketing mistakes that photographers make down the road. It's a lot of information that we're going to have here, so we're going to break it down like sort of little by little. So when it comes to mini sessions in photography, they've been around like forever, and all kinds of photographers do them, and people do it at Christmas. They do it in the fall for like family photo sessions. And so we'll get into this, and like, what are photographers doing wrong? Like, first of all, when it comes to these mini sessions.
Well, when it comes to things that photographers are doing wrong, first off, let me just say that they haven't had a lot of helpful information on how to do it right, because everyone seems to say, don't do mini sessions, don't do mini sessions. And so I think that this is an area that photographers have just been kind of like abandoned on. And so since I'm actually a big proponent of doing mini sessions, right. I just kind of wanted to offer that blog post as a way to help them do it in a way that actually grew their business instead of just temporary income. And so when it comes to just things they were doing wrong, or things that I would change just about the way that they're doing it, I would definitely say that like themed mini sessions are great, like fall, Christmas, whatever, but don't waste a ton of money on props. That is a really big thing that a lot of photographers are doing that is essentially just wasting their money, especially because they try to buy new props every single year. All of my mini sessions are very like minimalistic when it comes to props.
Keep it simple.
Yeah, just keeping it simple, focusing on the subject themselves. And then if I do, use any sort of prop, I just reuse them every single year. And, my clients don't mind that at all. They love it because they get to see how their kids have grown, or how their family has grown, or whatever, like that kind of stuff. So, that would be one thing. I have so many.
We'll go down the list, but the idea is keep it simple.
Yeah, for sure.
Minis are not always, but they usually come at a lower price. So don't blow all this money on building sets and props when this is more of a, I don't want to say budget kind of a thing, but it's not really meant to be that all-in kind of an experience for people, I guess, in most situations. So one of the things is, and maybe it's a weird thing because there's like a love-hate relationship with this throughout, I think, the community. Some people love them. Some people say never do this. I personally do it around Christmas, like a little bit, because there's a lot of people who want to come in to see me. And, Christmas is a busy time for the type of photography that I do. So I just tend to do it mostly around Christmas. But as far as how often people should do this, when is a good time to do a mini session?
Yeah, I always encourage people because, if you get on Pinterest, obviously there's 100 million ideas for mini sessions. And the thing of it is that you don't want to do these all the time. You want this to be something special, something different, something unique that happens. And you can do it to fill your calendar in parts of the year that aren't super busy all the time. So let's be intentional. A lot of photographers will do fall minis in October. Well, I don't know about you, but for me, October is already an insane time.
So that's a bad time to do it for that.
Yeah. And I think too, or if you do it in October, just don't do it on a weekend. Don't do it in those prime spots. Do it at the beginning of October before the leaves have really changed, or during a weekday or something like that. The cool thing about mini sessions is that you really get to pick when it's convenient for you. And I want to make sure that they're, as a photographer, that you're doing that ahead of time. You pick the dates and times available, and then you make that option to your clients, because you don't need to work around their schedule at this, during a mini session. They are supposed to be working around your schedule, because especially they're getting it for a discount. So, or for a cheaper price or whatever. So, yeah,
so that's a good point. So you don't want to take a peak time where you're going to bring in a lot of people anyway and taking something that may not be making you as much money. So that makes a lot of sense there. And another thing, as far as minis is, what's a good way to price these type of sessions, or what sort of methodology should you use when pricing a mini?
Yes. Okay. So, and you're going to get a ton of different answers on this from a variety of different photographers.
There's no one right answer.
But for me, so what I do is I just offer a one simple package, one simple price. And
keep it simple.
Yes. Simplicity just all the way around. And my clients have just loved me for that. They kind of gave me the name of oh, go her, she gives you a stress-free experience. That wasn't a marketing tactic on my end. That was my clients naming me as a stress-free experience. And I really try to keep that going, from in every single phase of the process, not just them booking it online or something like that, but also just simple props, simple pricing, simple packaging, all of that stuff. So I just do, this many images, this amount of time for this price. So
you don't have a lot of options. You just keep it very simple.
Yeah. At one point I did experiment with, doing an add-on thing where they can okay, you get this many images for this price, and then you have the option to purchase additional images. And I thought, okay, well, this will be great. I'll just trick them into buying more images. And the thing is that it worked. They did buy more images, but they weren't returning customers, because nobody likes to feel like they're being tricked. Nobody wants to feel gosh, I wish you would have just told me that ahead of time. We all hate that. Right, we don't want, we feel like we're being scammed. And so I actually found that, that affected how many people went from mini session clients to full session clients when I did that. So I stopped doing that. And now I just do, you get this many images for this price.
Yeah, I guess you don't want to mislead people in saying it's going to be $100 and then it turned out to be $300 in extra fees that they weren't preparing for and putting a bad taste in them.
Some photographers will do upselling in the session, through prints and things like that. And that's totally fine, but I would definitely say warn them of that ahead of time. Just even in the description, maybe just saying you will have the option to purchase prints afterwards, not required, or whatever, just voicing it ahead of time, because nobody likes to just feel unprepared for that kind of stuff. And so so and I also think it should reflect what you normally do. If you always do in-person sales, then do in-person sales so I don't do in-person sales because I don't have a ton of time, but I do have the option to purchase prints just through the gallery, but not I don't do like in-person sales meetings. And so I wanted my mini session experience to be just the same. And so that's kind of what I do for them. They do have the option to purchase prints, and some of them do, but it's not required. It's not something I focus on, all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and that's a smart thing, like you said, because you want people to know upfront exactly what they're all in for. Hidden things don't work out great in photography or any other kind of business when people think they're getting one thing, and I guess like going to the car dealer and getting a car and then thinking it's 10 grand and them going, whoa, and now you have to pay for rust proving and you have to pay for this and now you have to pay for this. And it's never kind of like the price that you think it's going to be. So,
and there definitely though should be something that differentiates it from your regular packages, because it can't just be price. Like, for example, and a lot of photographers might hate me for this, I don't know, and I don't really care because it's worked for me in my business, but I actually give my full sessions, all of the images. Now, when I say all images, obviously I don't give them 20 of the same pose or ones with their tongue out, whatever, but I give them all of the images because I focus on shooting in camera how I want it to shoot. Editing takes minimal time, so that it doesn't hurt me to give that all to them. And so whenever somebody is looking at my mini sessions, I want them to be able to say, why would I ever book a full session with her, and be able to answer it clearly. The reason they book a full session with me is because they do get all of the images. They get more time with me. They get maybe 2 locations and 2 outfits, whatever. So I want them to see the difference beyond the price too. Yeah,
that's a good point, because I was confused with that, because I guess you don't want your regular customers to think they're overpaying for something. So if your regular section is $600, $700, $800 and you're offering like a certain type of a photo book or whatever, you don't want to have a much lower price and be giving people the same thing. There's got to be some difference, I guess, in the offering there, isn't there? Doesn't there have to be?
Yeah, for sure. I think that that's probably one of the other mistakes that photographers make, is they give away too much. And the thing is it's not always just the number of images. That's what we all like to think whenever I tell them, like, oh, you're giving away too much. You can give away too much time. You can give away too much, like, for the money that you are making them pay for their price, or you can be giving too many images. So you want to make sure that it's like the number of images that you're going to be giving them is, comparable, and it makes sense, it makes sense to, that's like a third of your normal offer, whatever your normal offer is, maybe cut the price
to be scaled down.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It needs to make sense for sure.
Yeah, and that's a good point, because then, if you have someone paying for a regular session and like, I paid X amount, if I would have known, I would have taken the mini session. I think that can leave a bad taste in people's mouths a little bit when that happens as well. And as far as a little bit deeper into organizing these sessions and who should you be inviting to these sessions, is your audience the same, or should it be the same for a mini session? Because one thing I read about that you do is you're really segregating your people, and you may not be sending out these mini offerings to your regular clients.
Absolutely. So I started doing something a couple years ago. I started implementing this marketing map that I teach in my More Than Marketing course that really shows people, photographers. It's very specific to what we do. And it shows us how we should be helping people find our business, and then how to get them to dive deeper in that relationship with us, and then how to get them to just upkeep that relationship. Every relationship requires consistent conversation, and that's how we really need to be thinking about this with our clients. We have this relationship with them, and so what I started doing was people who would inquire and didn't book, I use a system called Honeybook for bookings. And so everybody who inquires, I have their email address. And so when they don't book, I segment my email list. I add them to an email list with a tag that says, it's kind of clever. It says something like not yet or something like that.
Right. Yeah.
Because it's not a no. Yeah. It's just like a not yet, And so
the maybes.
Yeah. These are the maybes. These are the ones that I still need a little convincing. And what I do is I send these mini session offerings to them first. And the reason I do that is because these are people who still see some sort of perceived risk when hiring me, whether that's oh my gosh, she's 6 times more expensive than this other photographer, how is she really that different? Or what if I don't like the images? A lot of people have horror stories with photographers where they thought they were going to get something and it ended up being something totally different. And so like, you know, I want to show them, my goal is to use mini sessions to show these people like your risk that you're perceiving is there is actually not there at all. And so I'm, you know, it's essentially just like making them fall in love with me when otherwise I may not have that opportunity. And so I send it to these people and generally they fill it up. I only have a designated number of spots on 1 or 2 days maybe, and they fill it up. And if it doesn't fill up, then I send it to my whole email list. And then if that doesn't fill up, which I mean, like, I can't even think of a time that it hasn't, then I would post it on Facebook, because I don't want people to follow me on Facebook who are just deal seekers, you know?
And that's a real problem with that, because it's exactly what you don't want.
Exactly. And you know, we want to also make sure too that when you are giving this to your audience, that you're building up hype about it. You want to make them excited for this. Like, send out a week ahead of time, like, I'm planning out my mini sessions. I'm so excited. Make sure you tune in over the next couple weeks as I reveal the background. Like, I'll reveal little snippets of like what it's going to look like, or I'll reveal like little tidbits like that, like make it exciting, you know?
Building some anticipation.
Exactly. Yeah. And then I kind of tell them it's going to be released on this time, on this day. And I kid you not, like, I do it at like 6 a.m. on a certain day, and I wake up at 7 and it's already full. And I'm like, yes. So
no, but that's a good strategy in segmenting. It takes a little extra work to do that, but segmenting that, because these are people who contact you. They contacted you for some reason. They took that effort. So there's obviously interest in what you do for whatever reason. Like you said, it could have been price, it could have been timing. Who knows? They didn't follow through on that initial booking with you. So this sort of gives you a second chance to say, hey, or at least as opposed to letting them go, you give them this opportunity to book into this mini session. So if price was the differentiator, that may put them in the range that they need to be or can afford to get in with you.
Absolutely. And that's not the first thing that I send them either. So typically if somebody is in that not yet category, I have this like series of emails that they receive from me that will kind of nurture them a little bit more, get them,
following up with them.
Exactly. And not even just about like sales, but like only 3% of our followers on social media actually see our posts. And so what I'm trying to do is make sure that I have these guaranteed dates, essentially with my clients, with these potential clients. And so I do that through email, and it has worked. And the thing is you kind of said like, oh, that takes a little bit of time, and it does up front. But after a while, once you get the whole thing automated, like what I have, I actually don't even talk to clients a lot of times until the day of their session. Like, I don't even know what's happening. And yet they feel they've had like 18 encounters with me. Exactly.
Right, because of the emails.
Because of the emails and things like that. And so, just like email templates take time to set up, but then it saves you so much time after it's set up. Right. It's the same thing with this. Like, once you get that email list set up and you get it automated to where you're not doing all of this work, then it's much easier. Exactly. Mm-hmm.
So that's good to stay in touch, keep people, and that's a system I had is similar to that. Follow up, at 1 week, 1 month or something like that. Hey, where'd you go? Type of a thing. And we never got a chance to talk, or you never booked. And I think too that little side note here, but if following up with people or contacting them just because somebody reaches out to you for pricing especially if you're, sort of making yourself to be more of an exclusive type of photographer, they expect this personal service. So I think that just goes along with that sort of segmenting that you make to reach out to somebody and follow up with them and say, hey, whether it's by phone, a lot of people don't get on the phone now, but that little bit of service can make the difference in just accept not hearing from somebody just because they not following up with them if they ask for your pricing or something along those lines. And as far as scheduling goes with these minis, how do you book these, or how do you schedule once you have this response and a bunch of people are coming after you to sign up for these events? What's your scheduling process for the minis?
So I used to do it by hand, and as you guys can imagine, that is just a whole disaster, and it's terrible. And also people get irritated at messaging back and forth. And so I actually implement online booking for all of my sessions. Same with mini sessions. I have them get on, they select a day and time that works for them. If they want it, they have to pay that deposit. Some people have them pay in full just because of the area that I live in. I don't do the pay in full, especially because these are people who maybe don't fully trust me yet. I don't ask them to do that.
So that works best for your area.
Exactly. And so I just kind of have them pay that deposit. They get the day and time, and then they go through that email funnel of, preparation emails, things like that.
Yeah, booking online now, I think for a mini session now is something you have to get involved and do, because you're right, there's so much back and forth. And if you're dealing with 5, 6, 7, 8 people trying to book a time, and the person 1 is saying, well, what times are available? Person 2 is saying what time's available? Person 3, and you tell them Monday 5 o'clock, Monday 5 o'clock, Monday 5 o'clock, and they're not getting back for you for 2 or 3 days. When you're originally emailing something that Monday 5 o'clock, if you don't have back from them for 4 or 5 days, the second or third person might have gotten back to you and said, yeah, I'll take that. So it can lead to frustration, I think, with customers juggling emails. So sending them to one central point, having them just click a button and book, you're out of that loop. And
that same frustration that people deal with, like exactly that you just named, that happens with mini sessions. As I grew my business and regular sessions, that same thing started happening. And so that's why I started doing online booking for all of my sessions. And if somebody's interested in that, Acuity scheduling is free. And so you can just get on there and you get to pick the days and times. And at first I was really against it, because I was like, no, what if somebody doesn't hire me because they don't think I'm available? But they do. And the thing is if you want to be that sought after photographer, the one that people really change their schedule around, you have to be willing to do that. And so, I was shocked. People they just started making their schedules around mine, and it really allowed me to have my life back and, spending more time with my family. Yeah.
Just plain easier. And I started doing that maybe 2 or 3 years ago.
Yes.
I don't do it for my regular sessions because it's a little bit more involved in that. But when I do these mini sessions, I used a website called RegFox, RegFox.com, which is another type of a scheduling. You put all the information. It's like an event. You put all the information about your event, your options, your pricing, and the available spots. If someone wants Tuesday at 10 o'clock, they just click Tuesday, pay their deposit, and they are booked, and that spot is marked as filled. And it's 5 fewer things you have to think about, going to that event. And so and I think it's only $1. Like, it's free to use to set up this whole service. If someone does book, they only charge you like $1 for that for a session. So it's only a few dollars to book a whole mini. And like you said, there's Acuity scheduling, there's Calendly, there's probably like 5, 6, 7, 8 of these booking calendar type services out there.
And now HoneyBook has even started it with themselves. Like, they've actually just started doing that. Yeah. So I was paying for Calendly, and then now I'm going to be eliminating that this next year, which feels great to eliminate costs.
Anytime.
Yeah.
But it is worth spending the extra couple dollars for these booking services, though, because it just makes it so much simpler.
It does.
One less, you don't have
and
to
your
chase people
clients
down.
appreciate it too.
Yeah, it's just easier. It's just so much easier, and I'm so happy I bumped into that a couple years ago. Okay, so now that we're moving on, we've got all these people booked, and how about promotion? How should we be, if you've still got a few spots left and you got to fill in these last couple of spots, how should we go out there? Is it worth spending money on Google? Is it worth spending money on Facebook for advertising these events? Or what's the best way to go to fill in those extra spots?
Yeah. Okay. So here's the thing with ads and stuff, but I built my business to 6 figures without ever paying any sort of advertisement. And so, I've always tried to build my business in a way that doesn't accumulate debt. So I didn't have money to spend when I first started. And so I just had to build without that. And so that's kind of what I still do, is I try my best to fill it organically. But like you said, if you still have a few spots left and, you've posted on Facebook, you've emailed your whole list, whatever, that's kind of up to you. Here's my advice with this. I used to, a few times a year, I would run ads to my mini sessions just to experiment with that. And I would get clicks, but I wouldn't get bookings.
Conversions.
Exactly. And so I just felt like for me, it wasn't worth it. And I now use Facebook ads for my education business. And so I do know what I'm doing. Like, it's not like I'm the person who didn't target or anything like that. Like, I targeted, the people, the gender, the location, all of that type of stuff. And so you really have to know what you're doing with these ads, and you can just kind of test that out for yourself if you have some money to spend and see if it's worth it for you. But for me and where I'm at, it wasn't worth it. You
had such a great mailing list. It wasn't necessary.
Yeah, I have 3,000 people on my mailing list right now.
So that's a lot.
Yeah.
So then that filled those couple of spots that you needed to do with the minis. And you're right about advertising and going out there. It is essential. Because, and especially with what I do in Boudoir, there's only so many friends of friends. There's so many referrals, and you have to widen your horizons, and you do have to reach out to new people. But that's a whole nother thing to learn, is how to initially, those ads, they're not going to be buyers at first. They have to learn about you. They have to become familiar with your business. It's in a whole process. And that may not be worth spending all that money just for a mini session.
Exactly.
Again,
I always say that ads are best for brand awareness. Ads are best to get new followers to engage with you, but they're not best for bookings, is what I try to tell photographers. Not that it can't be done, but I have found that you can do it in other ways that actually works better.
Yeah, and you can wind up spending a lot now. Advertising isn't cheap, especially on Facebook, and you don't want to be spending 2/3 of what you're going to make on a couple of ads just to fill up a couple of spots, especially if you don't know what you're doing, because it's very easy to have that money go out and people get frustrated because they don't get an immediate return. Like you said, you may get some clicks, but there's not going to be a lot of people, I don't think, contacting you at first. You have to contact them, remarketing, and the second time, the third time, the fourth time. And there probably isn't enough time and involved for these minis to get involved in that part of it just for a mini session. So I agree with you on that, but everybody has their own system, and you got to do what works best for you. And we talked about the automated emails, and as far as now that you have these people booked, you are sending those people to automated emails to get ready, to let them know what to prepare, what to bring, and so forth for the sessions as well.
Correct. Yes. So I have an initial preparation email that's like, yay, congratulations. I'm so excited to work with you. Just really getting them hyped up about the experience. And then I start in the email just answering any FAQs that they have, like, what do we wear? What do I do if my kid is freaking out and doesn't nap that day? Or, all of these things that they're concerned about. I just start addressing those. And I have style guides, Pinterest boards, live videos where I'm picking out clothes, or just all kinds of resources. I send them to my blog for blog posts that I wrote, like what to do with grumpy husbands, or things like that. And
get them excited.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, just getting them really excited for it. And then about a week before their session, I have a email sent out just as a reminder and a few last minute things. And then at the very, very end, it's like the day of their session, and it's an automated email or text. You can send automated texts as well. And it just says like, hey, it's Ariel. I'm so excited to meet you today. I just wanted to let you know, take a deep breath. It's all going to be so great. I'll see you at whatever time, or whatever. So yeah, those are the 3 things that I send out for mini sessions.
It's not just before the booking. Those emails continue after the booking to keep people in the loop, to keep them in getting prepped and so forth. So that's an important follow through as far as the sessions go. And then when it finally comes to session day, and you have all these families coming in, as far as, even though they may not be paying what your full clients may be paying or your regular clients may be paying, I don't think that when these people are coming in, necessarily they should be getting any less of an experience in this mini. What are your thoughts on that? I think you should still be treating them the same, or giving them the same kind of experience as your regular customers.
100%. Remember that the goal for this isn't just quick bookings, quick money in your pocket. The goal for this is to turn these people into regular clients. And so you need to make sure that they don't feel rushed. Even though the timer is rushed,
sure,
you have to keep your game face on and act like it's not rushed. And like, you guys are doing so great. Oh my gosh, you're a model. Just giving them all that like affirmation, and just giving them whatever it is that is true to your regular experience during that mini session.
And then when you get through all this, and here's one thing that I don't deal with a lot of kids, but somehow I wound up getting into some beach photos in the, I do a little bit in the summer. And I can only take like 2 or 3 months of this during warm weather, and it turned out to be a lot of people. But the one thing I noticed, and I had to put in my paperwork for people booking on these beach sessions, is if you're taking a photo of a child, the parent or whoever comes along inevitably feels like if they stand behind you and start going, look this way, Lucy, 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 and they're waving their arms and they'd be screaming at these kids. As far as, do you run into that, or is that just a Northeast kind of thing here when you actually have to put into the paperwork for the parents that this doesn't do anything and please don't shout at the kids?
Yeah, so what I try to do, I find that my clients really like education. They don't know what they're supposed to do, so they think they're helping. And so what I do is I focus on really educating clients on my blog before they ever even book. And so my blog isn't for new clients. My blog is for people who are diving deeper into that relationship with me or have already even booked a session. So I might write a blog about 4 things your photographer's not telling you but wants you to know, or something like that, or how to handle your kids when they're not looking at the camera, or whatever, and just address it in that way, and then maybe include that in one of those prep emails. Most of my clients are now actually consistent, loyal clients, and so I'm not doing
they know the rules.
Yeah, exactly. They know the rules. And so most of them walk into my studio and say, whatever you want, whatever you think, we're just going to sit over here. And I'm like, yes, they just let me do my thing. And so, but all of that didn't happen until I gave them that education beforehand.
Right. Yeah, and that's one thing, because when I'm working with women, I do boudoir primarily, so I'm working with a bunch of nervous women who they do everything you say, move here, move here, move here. But when it comes to children, they're all over the place. The parents are all over the place, and it can get chaotic really quickly. Like I said, you can have Uncle Dave and Aunt Mary all screaming at these kids, look up, look at me, and they're all doing all kinds of things, which is a complete distraction. So,
well, and it was really funny because I was talking to a photographer on Instagram the other day, and she was saying she doesn't feel like she's good at marketing because she's an introvert. And most people are surprised to learn that I'm actually not an extrovert. And so you don't have to be an extrovert to be good at marketing or to give a really good client experience. You can, introverts are really generally very intuitive. So during that session, if you notice mom is really self-conscious, and because, here we are chasing our kids and we're like, do I look fat? What is happening to me right now? It's stressful enough dealing with my children, much less wondering what in the world I look like or my hair. And so by taking the time to be like, oh, let me fix this wrinkle in your dress, or let me fix your hair right here. Then that makes them take a breath of relief, oh my gosh, she's taking care of me, oh thank God, they
get real, they get so stressed out over it. It doesn't have to be that stressful. That's what I never
understood. And something I do also ahead of time that is helpful with the kids and families is asking, how old are the kids that are going to be participating and what are they into right now? And when I'm looking at their little stuff beforehand, it'll tell me oh, they're really into the show Paw Patrol, or they're really into this. And having kids myself, I generally know what all of these things are. And so I might be if I notice the kids getting rowdy, I might be hey, who's your favorite pup on Paw Patrol? Or, and then that makes them calm, and then mom calms down immediately. So that's another
whole thing I was not prepared for, is corralling these children. They're not all like that, but they're running all over the place. Oh, that's exhausting. Or anybody who has to deal with that on a regular basis, hey, that's just another whole thing. There isn't enough Tylenol for me to deal with that, on a regular situational, day in and day out circumstance. And when these sessions are done, finally, you get through your whole event, beginning tonight, it's all a success. You got all your pictures, you go home, you're tired, you're exhausted. The work really doesn't stop there. And even when you give these people their deliverables, whatever it may be, the prints or digital images, whatever you choose to do in those sessions, there's a lot of follow-up, I think, that comes after the end of that mini session. Because again, I guess you're trying to nurture these people as customers, so you're just not cutting them loose and they're not going to hear from you anymore. What are some good tips on follow-up with your mini clients? For sure. And I treat them, so then they move into the categorization on my email list of mini session client. And which means that, maybe they're not
quite as scared of that session with me now, but they still haven't committed to a full session yet. And so the first thing I do with all of my sessions, mini session or not, is I send a thank you email. And it doesn't just say thank you. What I do is I say, I just had a chance to look through your images, and I want you to make sure, I just wanted to let you know that, you don't have to worry. These are so, so good. Even if I haven't looked through them, just offering them that assurance just makes them feel like so much more less stressed. And then I also let them know when to expect the images and when to expect a sneak peek if that's something that you do or whatever, just so that I don't get bombarded with a bunch of emails.
Are they ready?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
I find that clients are a lot less annoying whenever
people are excited.
Yeah.
The same thing that I run into, because people are very excited, and I don't know, it's a very polarizing thing when some people show people the images during the session. Other people, I never do that. I mean, I do. I have women I'll show them on the back, but they're very excited. Mm-hmm. So yeah, people do want it. And sometimes if you are busy, it can take a few days to get in there and start working on these pictures and get them ready. So keeping people in the loop is important, just so they're not hearing anything, they get more anxious.
For sure. And then what I do is I send them, when they get their gallery, obviously there's an email that goes with that. I tell them how to order prints. It has an instructional video. I treat everybody like they know nothing. And then I just tell them all of that stuff. And then about 3 days after that, I send a follow-up form, and I give them a form to fill out kind of on their experience with me. I also ask them to leave me a review on Facebook, Google, and I give them the links to do that. I used to offer a free print for this, where I would just say you get a free 8x10 if you
do the review.
Yeah, if you do the reviews on each of these sites. Now I just ask people and they just do it. But that's kind of how I got that started. And then after that, I kind of just nurture them how I do my regular kind of clients, maybe with an extra intentional email or two about me and my family, and just really personal emails as opposed to just salesy emails, because a lot of the like I said, this is email list is almost like a replacement for your blog and social media. So it needs to be that introductory content that gets them attached to you as a person and not just your photos, as well as helpful content that is free help to them. So I have blogs that are 3 tips for burnt out moms, or how to plan your wedding during coronavirus. And it's it tells them, if you're getting married between May and August, here's what you need to know and here's what you need to do. If you're getting married between August and December, whatever. And so just offering them that free, helpful content really builds that trust, and it builds me up as an expert in their eyes. And, obviously they're going to love the photos, but here's what I found the most is, ask yourself, what do I want these people to feel during this experience? Because I believe, and what I have found to be true, is that how people, are feeling when they leave your experience has a direct influence on how they feel about the photos. And so my goal is that when they leave, they feel like that was the best freaking session that they have ever had. So many times I'm like, I just want the dad to say, that wasn't so bad, or I would have done this for fun, things like that. And just really making that happen, because then they're happy with their photos and it's almost a guaranteed return client. I did a analysis, actually. I need to go update that blog post, because I went back to see on all of my giveaways that I've ever done, how many people actually became regular clients. And
customers.
Yeah, and it was maybe 15%, it was between 15 and 18%, I can't remember. And then when I went to the mini sessions, it was between 95.8% ended up becoming regular clients.
Customers.
Yeah.
And then you'll be surprised how many people in photography, number one, do not have emailing lists and do not collect emails like that to send them out. There's so many that don't do that. And then for the ones that do, a lot of the only time sometimes they may be reaching out to people is just selling something.
Yes.
And when it's always this sale, first of all, when you do that all the time, I think it really devalues your regular offerings, because if everything is always on sale, then
100%.
Nothing's on, it's not how you do it. but they don't reach out in a sense that they're offering practical or useful advice.
Absolutely.
Like I said, it's just always, and then people just delete those, like you said. So it's a whole culturing this email list type of an approach that you
start thinking of yourself as a resource for your clients. What kind of resource do you want to be? Like when I have photographers go to my website, I don't want them to feel like they have to pay for something to get value from my website. I want them to regularly hop on my website because they know that they're going to get free, good advice as opposed to, just offerings to buy my course.
Sell.
Yeah.
So that's a turnoff. It's a turnoff to everybody, and if everything is a sell, people see that a mile away. I think people are very conditioned now to be out, keep their ears up for something like that. And so those are great tips. It's a lot of information about boudoir minis. What Ariel and I are going to talk about now, moving on, are some big marketing mistakes that many photographers make. This is a smart list. Again, I was cheating and looking through your videos and so forth. And you do very good videos on YouTube. So make sure you search for Ariel and there's a lot of great information that she has out on her videos there. And I'm going to go through these lists that you made here, and I just want you to jump in and expand on these topics a little bit. And the first one is of course about marketing, and we were talking about this a little bit before when we were talking about the minis. But people, and this is like another whole show just to talk about marketing in itself. But photographers do this wrong, or they do it in the wrong places. And like you said, Instagram and Facebook are not the places, I don't think, to sell your services. And that's exactly what people try to use that for, is free advertising. And I think that's not the right approach there. And so what are your thoughts about, first of all, these marketing mistakes that people make?
Absolutely. Yeah. So not marketing in the right way, in the right places. All of us are being told, you need to be on Facebook and Instagram. You need to be blogging. You need to have an email list. Like, I'm not the first one to tell you these things. But what they're not saying is how you need to be showing up in these places matters. And it's different for photographers than it is for like a coffee shop or something like that, because our goals are different. If somebody walks into a coffee shop, most likely they're going to buy something. Just because somebody comes on my website doesn't mean they're going to buy something. And so our goals are all different. And so I found that marketing and the map that we use is actually quite different than a lot of other businesses. And so, when it comes to social media, don't sell. Focus on connecting. I want you to think of social media like a first date. If you're going on a blind date with somebody, you show up and what do you talk about? Like, oh, this is what I do. This is my family. This is where I was raised. This was all about get to know you. Right, yeah, exactly. Some get to know you stuff, some helpful information, maybe also some stories. Stories are always a hit. And also just a little bit of like something that makes them want more. Like on a first date, you don't want that to be the last date. You want this person to like keep wanting
want it to come back.
Right? Yeah, we want to have that second and third date, right? So that's the same thing here. And so, really focus on connecting with your audience. And then, a lot of people will say to me, I don't really have an audience, just my family and friends. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to focus on creating shareable content. So here's what that means. Whoever you're trying to reach, whoever you've worked with in the past that you're like, oh my gosh, I want 100 more clients like that person, go to their Facebook page or their Instagram page or wherever it is and watch them. What are they sharing? What are they liking? What are they commenting on? What is that stuff? And for me, most of my Facebook is geared towards moms. And so I went to these moms' pages and I found that they were sharing inspirational articles and they were sharing memes. And I started doing memes like twice a week, and I would just like find memes on Pinterest, brand them to myself, create my own, whatever, and then like make it my own thing on Canva or whatever if I didn't like the design that was, on Pinterest or whatever. And then people would share these, and my post reach started going from like 100 people were reached to 600 people were reached to 1,000, and now it generates like between 5,000 to 8,000 reach, and my engagement is always between 20 and 70%. So I've never had an engagement rate lower than that. And overall, my entire Facebook page engagement rate is like 80%. And I was just talking to a photographer yesterday who was complaining about her engagement rate. And this kind of brings me to my second point, which is just she's quitting too soon. So she started implementing some of these tactics that I was telling her to do. And she's like, it's not working. It's not working.
Everyone's responding.
Yeah. And I'm like, you have to give it time. You know, like these people haven't been following you or watching you because you haven't been generating good, helpful, resourceful content. And also the algorithm hasn't liked you because you haven't been generating good, helpful, you know, content for these people. And so it takes time for both the algorithm and people to see what you're doing and that they want to be a part of it. And so give yourself time. And I'm talking like it took about 6 months before I went from, you know, nothing to something. And that sounds like a really short amount of time, but I posted twice a day, every single day for 6 months. And I tell you what, when people don't say anything and you're getting no reads and no clicks and no comments and no likes, that's hard. It was harder than it sounds. And so, you know, that's probably my second critique though for the photographers is like, stop quitting. Like, you know, we try something and if it doesn't give immediate results, then we're like, well, that didn't work. I need something new.
Yeah, because it's a very way that people are conditioned now that X and then Y needs to happen like right away. And
Absolutely.
A lot of things like marketing or learning how to be a great photographer, these are long-term things. You don't start in one day and build up 1,000 followers or 5,000 followers or get all this engagement from 5 or 10 posts. It is, and I always use the sort of the story is that like good habits sort of don't have immediate returns. Bad habits have immediate gratification. And I always use the example of like going to the gym. You know, if you want to get muscular, going to the gym one time doesn't give you big muscles. Mm-hmm. You know, you don't see that. And it's a long-term investment. And then you start to see that. Whereas like eating a cupcake, you know, you feel great right afterwards because you're getting that sugar rush, but you know it's bad for you.
Exactly.
You know, so constantly doing this. So it's much in the same way. You're not going to get that immediate reaction or immediate growth or immediate response.
Marketing and dieting are like the same. Yep.
Very
marketing,
similar.
Dieting, yeah. And it's just as frustrating. I'm the weirdo who loves it, but
it's how I think that's how you have to approach that. And doing that, and you were talking about being engaging with the people, leaving personal responses. So if someone comments on your post, make sure you get in there and say something back, and not just thank you, but maybe add some more. And again, you have to add on to that and make it a meaningful conversation.
For sure. Yeah, absolutely. And make sure you're posting things that they want to read. You know, like you're trying to prove yourself to these people. You know, there are 18 other photographers in your area or more. And, you know, we have to prove to them that, hey, I'm the best one for you. Like, hands down, I'm the only one that you should hire. And here's why. And it's not just a one-time post of you saying that. This is like consistently you saying that, not abruptly or bluntly, but saying it just through, you know, loving them essentially.
Right. Being genuine.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's work.
It is.
It's a half-time job to go in and manage these accounts.
Absolutely. Yeah. And the photographers, they'll say like, oh, I don't like marketing because it doesn't feel authentic. And I'm like, well, you know, you need to know who you are and market in a way that is authentic to you. You know, that's why in my course, like, I really focus on these, you know, photographers getting to know who they are first. Like, there's like personality tests, self-discovery activities, finding their why, like, you know, like your life purpose type things, like, you know, all of these things. And I do that because when you start to discover that type of stuff, your messaging becomes authentic. And, you know, the reason people hate marketing is because it feels fake. But if you know who you are and you know who you're talking to, marketing becomes less and less
easier.
Difficult. Yeah.
It's true. It's hard. It's a difficult thing. Like I said, you could spend years learning how to do that and how to learn that and to get that message. And when it comes to here, like say Instagram now, which is probably the number one thing that people are on, not only as a photographer, you can post a photo, but you can write. And I notice some people write very lengthy text with their photos, and I'm not great at that. I may write a sentence or two. You think that's important too, in writing a bit of a story about that photo and giving a person a reason to read it or to engage with that and to respond to text on your Instagram posts?
So here's the thing. I am a very lengthy, you know, poster, but that's because I love writing. Yeah, that's just who I am. I have a very inspirational brand. It's very like, and that's like genuinely who I am as a person. And so I'm not very good at like small talk, like just going to the bar and talking to people. I'm more likely to be like, hey, you know, tell me your life story. Tell me about your relationship. You know, like that's who I am.
But that's who you are. So you're doing that because that's genuine.
That's genuine to me. You don't have to do that. The videographer that I work with, he is so funny. And he has this hilarious approach to every single post that he makes. And it feels good to him, and he doesn't have to post every day, and it works because that's who he is. Like, and that's really what I focus on in my course is like, you don't have to do things this one way. Like I felt like
there's a lot of rules. There's a lot of rules with social media and Instagram.
Yeah.
Like, these people may be crazy, so you don't have to listen to what somebody do what you want to do.
Exactly. Instagram and Facebook, you know, they're really focused on quality over quantity now. And so it's, you know, all about posting like good, helpful things that people want to read and engage with, because again, their goal is to keep people on that platform as long as they can. So, but also, you know, that kind of means that you have to stop being such a perfectionist about the things that you're posting, you know, which is another mistake that photographers make.
And I'm bad with that. That's one of my fails is right there.
And honestly, I think that's what's gotten me the farthest is the fact that I'm not a perfectionist at all, almost to a fault. Like, I would always see things when I was editing that I should have caught when I was shooting, or, you know, stuff like that, because I don't naturally look at something and see what's wrong with it. And so,
you think it's a perspective thing like that? Is it just looking at things and seeing what's wrong, or do you want it to make it the best it can be? Is there a differentiation there as a negative, as to just want it to be better?
So real quick, I'll tell you why I think this. In my course, I do this 6 months of coaching. So I have these one-on-one conversations with these photographers, which means I deal with a lot of perfectionists. And I have found...
You're experienced in this.
Yeah, I found that. And it's always like a different therapy session with each one, because it's like, you know, that perfectionism is either rooted in a couple different things. One, they're a naturally critical person. Like, those are the people who like grow up and be editors because they are like naturally critical. Exactly. Yeah, like they're just naturally critical people. Or perfectionism can come from self-doubt, like imposter syndrome, you know, us dealing with like, I'm not good enough to be doing these things, or perfectionism can come from comparison. And those I find are like the main roots of that perfectionist problem. And so I was not on Instagram when I started. I actually didn't get on Instagram till January of this last year. And so I will say, I think that Instagram affects even my own mindset in a more negative way than Facebook, because Facebook allows for people to be a hot mess. Whereas Instagram, people go there for inspiration. So people are only posting the best of the best. And that's intimidating. And so I think, you know, partially it's just like our own mindset about that kind of stuff and being able to intentionally turn it down too. So I might find a photo that I'm like, oh, it's a bit too yellow, but I'm going to challenge myself. And instead of going and re-editing it, I'm going to like just post it anyway.
It's tough. Yeah. And you can really hold you back, because if you're constantly in it keeps you from moving forward. So at some point you got to let these things out there. You got to let them go, because I know you can get caught in that cycle of constantly thinking like something's not right. Like, for instance, when I'm doing, like, of course, because I have to do it myself, the new website for this podcast, you know, it's never right. You got to fix it. And that could stall, you know, you can get caught up in that cycle. And the same thing can come to, you know, other aspects of photography as well. So it's a problem for some people like me, but I admit it. I'm working on it.
That's the first step to overcoming it, is to knowing that it's there.
Admitting that I have the problem is the first step. Another big thing I saw on your video about these mistakes is, it's a big one, and a lot of people do this, is copying competitors. When people get started in photography, the first thing they do is go on the Google machine and look for other similar photographers in their area, and they do exactly what these people are doing. That's their market research, you know, in quotes. I'm doing that, is just copying everything everybody else is doing, which is crazy. But that's what a lot of photographers wind up doing, and it's really not that smart. Tell us why.
Okay, because everybody says, find what's different. Tell people why you're different. And by you going somewhere and looking at what other people are doing, you are not doing what's different. You're doing the opposite of that. And so that's why in like the whole first module of the course has nothing to do inherently, you know, it still does, but not really, with marketing. It's all about that self-discovery, because I have to undo all of this stuff that you have told yourself about who you are and what you need to be and who you need to be like is absolutely ridiculous. And so we have to reset. We almost like have to do this reset method in their mind so that they can actually figure out who it is that they are. Because newsflash to every photographer, you are what's different about your business. You. People are paying for you. I don't care. You know, somebody else could have photos that's better than me, and yet I'm over here. Yeah, I'm still making 6 figures. I have 2 lenses, you guys. 2 lenses, and I'm at this level. That's insane. I'm like, you know, it doesn't matter. You know, what matters is that you know who you are, and you're able to communicate that to your audience as it benefits them.
Yeah, and I think a little bit of it is people not knowing what they don't know at that point. So they're just reaching out and grasping at things and just saying the assumption there that's wrong is these other people are successful or they're doing things the right way. And then it just perpetuates. The
reason that Amy and Jordan and Caitlin James and people like that are successful is because they know who they are and they're being true to that. And so you have to know who you are. And so if you're just starting out and you're trying to figure out like, okay, where do I go from here? I would say to definitely just start asking yourself why. Like, why do you want to do photography? Like, oh, I've always loved photos, blah, 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 blah. Everyone has that, you know, generic story, you know, but like, okay, so why is this important? You know what? Keep digging, like 7 layers deep, because, and don't just focus on like facts and stories and things like that. Really dig, you know, deep behind and like
more complicated.
Yeah, all these emotions behind all of these things, and start asking yourself like why you're interested in doing these things, and, you know, start posting that stuff.
So the moral of the story here, when you're starting your photography business, don't follow crazy people. Go to an educator like you. It's well worth the time. And
to even other photographers, like going back a little bit to that perfectionism, like, gosh, you know, photographers love to follow other photographers on Instagram. Don't. I mean, like, you can, as long as it doesn't affect your mindset. But if it starts making you go, oh my gosh, I need to be more like this, or I need to use that post in my own business, or I need to, you know, whatever, like, if it's hurting you in any way and causing self-doubt and imposter syndrome and perfectionism, then unfollow them for now. Just for now. You might be able to follow them again one day, but for now, do what's best for your own like mental health. And that means that you need to overcome that perfectionism and comparison and really focus on who you are and what is so amazing about you.
Yeah, it's difficult because people want to be successful. So naturally, they're going to look at somebody who they think is successful, and they think if I do what that person's doing, it's going to translate to me. But the one thing that people don't understand and they don't know is it doesn't work in that fashion. You know, there may be a certain formula where you need to follow these steps, but doing what works for one person isn't necessarily going to replicate that success for you. And like you said, the message there is you have to find out your own reasons and do it in your own way. And it's a little bit more complicated than being very esoteric and just copying things on the surface that people do. So again, these are like deep topics that really, we'll cut this one short because we can go on and on and on about this. And another big mistake you talk about is what we were talking about before, is advertising. What are people doing wrong?
Yeah, I think that they're just spending dollars all over the place and just hoping that it gets clients. And, you know, and some of these things are flattering. Like, I remember moving to a new town, I got a call from this grocery store after a while asking me to advertise on their shopping carts. And I was like, I feel so big. Like, that's exciting, you know?
They want it,
I'm like, oh my gosh, they want me. But then I was like, wait a second, that's not even where my clients shop. And who's going to hire a photographer for $1,800 or whatever, off of a shopping cart?
Grocery store receipt.
Yeah, exactly. They're not going to. And so you have to start just focusing on things that are actually going to get you more clients. And so, on my website, I give photographers these 10 ways to market their business for free, all of which I implemented at the beginning and used to grow a 6-figure business and to maintain it, because I still don't pay for advertising. So,
and this is one of the other that people think that this sort of marketing is optional or advertising is optional, and it's not. This is something that you really need to do and to be part of a successful business, to get out there and do this marketing. And one of your other tips was avoiding video. What is like I said, this face isn't exactly cut out for videos. You're telling me I need to get out there and to be recording myself?
You do. You need to show your face. So
I don't like the sound of that.
I mean,
it's painful.
It
could scare people.
A lot of the algorithm is a mystery. There we go. I can talk now. A lot of the algorithm is a mystery, but they have directly told us, like, we like video content. We want video content. And so we're still not doing it. And I don't really know why. I don't know. Me and my other entrepreneur friend, we were discussing whether it's because we're scared that people are going to watch, or we're scared that people aren't going to watch.
Not going to watch.
Exactly. And, the thing of it is that the first time you do video, whether it's live or recorded or whatever, is scary. It is. I still have my first live video up on my Facebook page. It's my most watched live video of me picking out family photo outfits from my own family's closets. And I showed them, like, this is what people normally show up wearing, and this is why I don't like it, and this is what you should wear. And people loved it, and they still love it but it's so funny because looking at that video, I can hear my voice shaking. I remember sitting up.
Practice,
and I was like, I practiced beforehand. Like, I was so nervous. And now I'm like, let me just hop on a video real quick. Like, no big deal.
Yeah. And it's work. It's something new, especially if you're producing, like I said, for someone like me, it's hard enough that I can edit a photo, but learning how to edit videos and doing that, it's a lot of time to get involved in that. So again, it's another thing that's taking up your most valuable resource is time. You're getting more of that. So you have to segment that and get in there and force yourself to do that. We were talking about that a little bit before. I'm not the biggest fan of making videos, but I'll do it. I started to do a couple for my website. And I think in terms of photographers do, even if it's as simple as making like an about me video, so people can see a little bit about you. Hey, I'm Michael and this is my building. And, I think that could do wonders for you. And even doing one simple video like that and taking it from there.
Absolutely. Or behind the scenes on you editing. I just did one of those the other day.
That would be really boring. How do you make that interesting to
They
somebody?
loved it. I did that on a newborn one the other day. It already has like over 3,000.
Oh, you mean like a screenshot?
I actually just held up my phone and recorded my screen. I'm like super low key there.
You're editing with one hand.
Pretty much one hand editing. And I let them watch and they loved it. I did one on like how I back up my photos. I did one on like just because that's something everybody has photos they need to back up. And so
it's an important part of photography. Yeah. So that's a good tip. And then we also have here that, marketing can be really an overwhelming thing. I know some of these are sort of crossing over some of the previous topics here. So how does marketing become an overwhelming thing to photographers?
So especially at a time like right now, photographers on Instagram, I'm sitting here watching their stories and they're all like, oh, I'm trying to plow through these educational courses and I'm trying to listen to all of these podcasts and take notes and read all of these books and articles. And that's so great. Definitely do that. Education is super valuable.
Right.
But the thing of it is that if you're allowing that to like overwhelm you, sometimes when we have that information overload, it gets to be overwhelming and we don't really know what's the first step that we should take from here. Like we've learned 18 things we need to do to our website. I can't finish them all today. What do I do? And so I think, I always tell my clients, meaning my photographers, that they should start with whatever it is that's going to get them clients, like whatever it is that's getting you clients, start with that, fix that, and then proceed from
Move
there.
On,
yes.
Step by step.
Yes.
Right.
And I have that, I have a productivity list on my on arielDilworth.com that really, it has like a tip in there that says to have a when I have time list. And so sometimes if I'm listening to a podcast and I'm like, well, crap, I need to go change this on a landing page, or I need to fix this, then I like add it to that list. And then when I do have time where I'm like, I'm caught up on editing, what do I do? You know, like I just go to that.
Something else.
Yeah, I go to that list and I have it there. That way you feel like, you know, you're not forgetting something. And so you have it there, but it's also not like overwhelming you like, oh my gosh, I need to do this or I'm never going to get a client again. You know, and so just kind of like taking things in stride. And then, and I also try to do that with my course. Like I try to tell them, okay, this is how you're going to practically implement this first, and this is what this is going to look like. This is how you're going to practically implement it next, and this is what it'll look like. Because I think that was one of the things for me that I was telling someone that I was like, well, in other courses, I always left actually feeling more overwhelmed than like at ease.
Too much information
yeah, it's too much information.
And then you don't remember any of it.
Exactly.
It's too much. Yeah, and one of the things that when people get involved in photography, especially, you know, they're just starting, they think all it is picking up a camera and taking a photo. And what they don't realize is that there's this whole other universe of chores and tasks and stuff involved. And then they sometimes sit down and go, wow, I didn't know I had to do this, and this, websites and social media and figuring out Google ads and Facebook pages. And there's like 20 different things that you have to be doing to get people in. So it certainly can be overwhelming to people, and you're right, they don't know where to start. Websites, like each and every one of these topics we're talking about really is an in-depth conversation in and of itself. And we're just like sort of summing things up here and doing little bit of brief overviews. But this is essentially what you do. You'll sit down with somebody, and if somebody needs help with the marketing or their website or whatever the case may be, you can sit down and have an in-depth conversation with them to get them squared away and give them some actionable steps to do in sort of area by area.
Yeah, I offer that private one-on-one coaching. I also just help people who message me on Instagram. I'm all about just being helpful. Sometimes I do that a little bit too much for free. And then also I'm a big advocate of just like that one-on-one conversation. I feel like when I first launched my course, my original intention wasn't to do coaching with everybody. But now I actually only take 20 students at a time, and I do coaching with every single one of them, because I do think that there are times when you're like, no, like I need an answer on this. I don't need to go ask the Facebook group. Like I want to ask you what the answer is. Yes. Right. You know, because this circumstance is unique and, you know, or whatever. And so I really try to offer that to them to, do that. It's
a valuable resource because people, like I said, they need that affirmation. They need that, you know, someone to tell them they're doing things the right way or to put them back on course a little bit. So for people who have this expert knowledge, you know, it's well worth paying for, you know, for what people are going to get out of it in the long run. So, it's a great resource that you can have these people and use your information to help them grow their businesses. And, you know, you can see you really have this genuine interest in wanting to help people. And that's where that, you know, I can hear that in your voice and you enjoy doing that. And like you said, that's being genuine and being this kind of a coach and you're, you know, creating your classes. And before, we've been talking a really long time today, and I don't want to keep you too long here today, but what I want you to do is just, we may need another whole section to get through this. Tell everybody where they can find you. Now, we didn't even get to touch a lot of your courses, so we'll briefly go over a few of those things and how everybody that's listening can get in touch with you if they want to set up a time or get involved in one of your courses. Yeah, so my website is arieldilworth.com, and I have my store on there that has all of my products. I have like a photographer's content calendar, a blogging guide. I have my More Than Marketing course, which is really do a lot of the stuff I was talking to you about, where I help photographers just like find themselves and who they are and build their businesses on that, so that everything can just be really authentic and real. And, you know, then they can watch their business explode to whatever level they want it to. And then I also have a blog on there, obviously, where people can go and find it's a good blog. Yeah. Nice pictures. They get a lot of time taking those pictures for your blog, so it works out good. Oh, yes. Yeah. So get on there, find all of those free resources. I have a couple resources on the store page that are like
guide to like overcoming self-doubt, and a content guide that has like 30 post ideas and live video ideas. But then I also have freebies hidden in different spots throughout the blog as well. So I have like a ideal client worksheet, or just different random things like that people can download and use in their own business to help them. So
I'm just skimming through it while you're talking.
Yeah. And then on Instagram, I do those videos on IGTV every Tuesday where I talk about tips. Those videos also go onto YouTube every Tuesday. On YouTube, I'm at Photos by Ariel, just because I created that a century ago, and
still there.
Yeah, and it's still there. So on YouTube, it's Photos by Ariel. Instagram, it's Ariel Dilworth Co. But I try to just really be a resource to you guys, whether that's paid or free. And honestly, I'm always looking for content ideas. So if you have a question about marketing, feel free to send me a DM, because I want to be here to help you, even if you can't invest in a course, and you just give me ideas for blog posts. So
there you go. And then before, one last thing in this time that we're going here too, you mentioned you had something just for getting through in marketing during these COVID times, and where can people find that on the website? Was that something that was free, that was available for people?
Yes, that is on, it's on my website. I have a blog that's called Coronavirus and Your Photography Business. And then,
the blog post.
Yeah, and then but then it also has like a guide that you can download, and it has like financial resources, email templates. It's also in my bio on Instagram. And it'll be around there probably for the next year, I'm sure, because this sounds like the coronavirus isn't going away anytime soon, since they fear that it's...
I can't go out, Ariel. I'm getting tired of sitting home.
I know. Me too. I love my kids and my husband, but my gosh,
You
gotta
get out.
Yeah, we all need our time. That's right.
Well, hopefully we'll be back to normal sooner than later. And I do want to thank you for coming on today. It was nice to meet you. That's the great thing about doing this show, is I get to meet some great people, and I get to learn a lot of things from talking to smart people like you. So I just want to thank you for coming on. And that's it. We got a good show today. And say bye to everybody, Ariel.
Bye, guys. I hope to see you around on Instagram and everywhere else. So
thanks.
See you later.